as per the status, like gap between the rich and the poor is by 8-fold higher. So which was quite alarming, and we thought that we have to do something.
I tend to try to follow Bhutan on a regular basis as head of global economics monitoring at the UN, but also out of personal interest in Bhutan.
On one hand, we are faced with high unemployment challenges, especially among the youth, and other hand,
I would like to share some of the aspirations of our youth and my views on how we as an academia.
And when I say government is the ruling party, and then we have the bureaucrats, and then we have the private sector.
I think the inactiveness or the reactiveness comes from the fact that the government has been taking care of us historically. So even today, medical is paid for, education is paid for.
So can we start with Rikesh? Rikesh also founded the plastic waste in road construction, and seems to be a man of many talents. So we give you the floor, Rikesh.
After being in business for 7 years now, and building about 120 kilometers of plastic road, and reusing more than 700 tons of plastic waste, and employing more than 65 people, although my company is able to sustain, but I don't think that it can ever thrive if the economic situation, is, if it's gonna go this way. So every time you pass a law, you take the privileges away from them. And why I'm saying this is because last year, October 31st, I stopped my plant in Jemina. I set up my plant in Jemina in 2014, and then I was asked to apply for another land, which I got through the Zongkak office. But then there wasn't this ad hoc circular that came from the Royal Commission for Urban Development, stating that no private individual will be allowed to take government leased land. So this is the 7th month that my plant isn't running, and I think it's just a matter of time that I have to start relieving my employees. So this is the current state that I'm in. And then it has really affected. I'm kind of person that likes challenges, but then I didn't know that it would really take a toll in my health. And as you heard about the foreign perspective of inclusivity from Mr. Hamid, and then you have the RMA speaking about that, and then the government itself. But I have my own share of personal experience and facts that I want to share with you all. I mean, every time you talk about new governments coming in and then talking about growth and all, about resilient growth, green growth, I mean, it's really good, and then the GDP that we talked about earlier, it has really brought a lot of benefits to the society, but it has also become very divisive, where vast majority of the GDP goes to a very small fraction of the society, and that's where everything comes to an whole. I'd like to share an example, because we stressed on acts and policies by the Member of Parliament, and of course we have the new political party here as well. There was this girl, and she availed this loan of 12 million through the CSI bank. And after running that business for 6 months, she got a notice saying that the plastic ban that was implemented in 1999 has been reinforced. Now you have to stop your business. And after 3 years, she's just running here and there, and then she's not able to do much. And then I couldn't help her, because she's already being litigated now. And then the husband, who actually mortgaged the land for this collateral, mortgaged the family land in Mongar, and both of them and all of them are currently litigated. And the officials were saying that no, we are very, we didn't just come up with this, notice. It's just there in the act and policies. And I questioned them that if you're so keen on, taking up this, policies and acts, there are policies and acts in the NSC 2009, Chapter 7, mentioning that any private individual who has, taken up this recycling business and has come up with this solution of, recycling anything, gets tipping fees, grant, green fund, etc., etc. And it's very sad to say that even after being in business for 7-8 years now, I have received, I haven't received a single penny from the government. And we talk about, environment and all that stuff. And last year I was appointed as the independent director of a state-owned enterprise called Green Bhutan Corporation Limited. And it was very alarming and for me, because even though we claim 70% forest cover, our forest isn't healthy. Now, in the last 3-4 years, almost 5,000 of the catchment area that produces water has dried up in the country, and it's a very serious concern. And we talk about hydropower projects and all that. And I also came up with this strategic plan for the SOE to really diversify on the income. And I found that if you are able to grow agarwood in an area of 1,000 hectares, you're able to produce or generate more income than the hydropower sector. So there are opportunities that we can really go about. So the circular actually left me ossified, and then it was a very tricky situation to be in, because when I say government is the ruling party, and then we have the bureaucrats, and then we have the private sector, and we don't get along each other, the three of us, and that's where the differences come, and then we are not able to perform better. And sometimes I imagine that the kind of work that I'm doing here, the kind of energy that I'm putting here, I'll be able to do much better if I go out. And it is very sad that when the last lockdown happened, and 32 of the entrepreneurs who were actually doing the business for the last 5-6 years have actually quit the business and have set for the IELTS exam. That is very concerning. People really quitting the business. And in terms of the government, I think government is quite in a situation where that there is no sort of income that is coming in, so suddenly they come up with this GST regime, goods and service tax. It was supposed to be implemented this July, and I've been part of that review team alongside Dasho and all. And I was very clear to them that this is something that we cannot implement straight away. If India took 19 years to study about GST and implement on the 20th year, and like Dasho mentioned earlier, that we Bhutanese seem to know everything. And when I started my business from 2010, it took me 3 years to get my license. And now people claim that they know more about my business than me. So this is the kind of society that we are living in, and it's quite sad also to really. And Mr. Gopal is also here. I wanted to talk about interest rate also, and we had this CSI forum, about financial inclusion, and then I questioned this gentleman, saying that in order to really encourage businesses in the rural sector, in the rural areas, why can't we come down with the interest rate, say 3%, 4%? And the person told me that the 3% won't be enough to remunerate the administrative cost. And I questioned him back, saying that currently Japan stands first in entrepreneurship development, and if you look at the interest rate, it's just 0.40%. And the income of Japanese people, they earn much more than what we earn. So why can't we do that similarly, Anzum? So there are a lot of things you talk about GST, and if you are not able to really, you talk about encouraging innovations in a lot of fields, agriculture, environment. But then, at the same time, the financial procurement policies doesn't permit you to actually sit in tenders also. I don't get to sit in tenders for my business if I want to do plastic road. And you talk about really big things in development aspects. And then I questioned the committee members of Royal Commission. Of course, I understand that they want to bring about big developments in the country, but neglecting the small ones, and not giving opportunity won't take you far. And it was very sad that 32 applicants were rejected, and these were the people who actually wanted to do something. And if you talk about employment opportunities, 70% of the working group from the population are employed by private sector. And but that's where we're heading. Thank you.
Thank you, Rikesh. I think many stories. Thanks for being very honest with us. I think we have to be honest with each other to first understand a problem and then solve our problems. I think a forum like this is the beginning of these conversations and discourse within society. The second speaker, Rinzin. So Rinzin is a lecturer, economics and statistics, and what we wanted to hear from her also, we all want to know what's going on in the minds of young Bhutanese college students, and what are their aspirations, what are their fears, and all that. So, Rinzin, please share with us some of these thoughts.
Hello and Kuzusampula. I would like to share some of the aspirations of our youth and my views on how we as an academia can prepare them through enhanced participation for inclusive growth. So with my close association with the young people for over 8 years at Sherubtse College and elsewhere, what I have observed are first, youth are striving for increased freedom from the system and from the controls of adults. Our system seems a little restrictive and is not really in favor of students' independence to plan and carry out activities on their own. So I feel our leaders should be bold enough to take risks and facilitate activities in the interest of students and promote more civic engagement to the students. Second, the current education system is more on imparting the subject knowledge, be it in schools or tertiary educational institutes. Our focus on 21st century skills are minimal. So once they get out of the education system, they are not able to make significant decisions in their lives. They are not able to navigate their personal problems, societal problems, economic problems, and often the academic challenges back in the institutes. Whenever we have a student who would come with these brilliant ideas, we often become so skeptical about it and start thinking about the adverse outcome of this. So for instance, when a students try to do some collaborative activities, which might even require their presence elsewhere. So the first thing we as a tutor asks ourselves as well as to the student is, will this not affect your studies, or will this not affect your attendance in the institute? So we are too focused on academics and we are too much subject oriented. I think such operational guidelines obstruct them. So I think we should start helping students realize a sense of responsibility or accountability rather than imposing such requirements. Third, while I converse with the young people, each of them has different needs, values, strengths, and interests, and of course, the weaknesses as well. So some of them dream of becoming a civil servant, while some of them want to be an entrepreneur. However, it is very sad to see their dreams already dying before it even start budding. So the reasons are due to excessive pressures and expectation from the societies and their parents. While they feel and understand that nation needs them here more than anywhere else, they are certain that their ultimate destination is going abroad for economic opportunities. Youth expect the adults to listen and respect their opinion as well. And I feel such democratic group procedure should come from an educational institute. Because these people are going to practice some days in different organizations. So we must work towards ensuring inclusive education that is giving everyone equal opportunity to learn, irrespective of their gender, economic capacities, and physical abilities, so that all of our youth realize their true potential and purpose in life. So beside the provision of technologies and tools as a learning aid, we also need to design the infrastructure in the institute. And secondly, I would also like to emphasize from the economic perspective, how can we make education more inclusive of students coming from diverse backgrounds? According to the Tracer study report of TVET in 2020, it showed that the majority of the students or trainees, as high as 60% of the students or trainees in TVET are sons and daughters of farmers with no education background, followed by children from armed forces and private sector workers. So what does this indicate? Is our education inclusive enough? Are our education institute inclusive? Are we giving the equal opportunity to all? So I think there is an opportunity for the policymakers to intervene and make education more inclusive, because if this initial stage of participation is not taken into consideration, again, there will be a problem of representation at a higher level. And the third aspect that I would like to emphasize is from the aspect of gender. If you talk about gender in education, over the years, we have received increasing enrollment of girls both in schools and tertiary education. And in some of the courses, especially in the arts and social sciences, we have somewhat equal enrollment. However, if you look at science courses, that is science courses, there is still a lesser female enrollment. Consider the technical institutes and college in the country. Galbushin College of Institute and Technology, the College of Science and Technology in Karbandi, and Jiminamgil College of Engineering and Engineering College. We have as low as 30% female enrollment, and CST has not even 30% female enrollment. So we need to start thinking about why there are fewer women in STEM education. How can we improve their involvement and participation? So we may be able to do it through what we call the positive discrimination. Rather than selecting the students entirely based on the merits, we also need to have certain quota for women in STEM education. And this is where positive discrimination could be of help. So this is the era of technology and the digital-driven world. And due to inequality and exclusivity in education, the disparity of gender in terms of income will widen due to the types of work they are taking up later. And further, the disparity in representation at all levels is likely to rise as well. So having said that, the positive discrimination must also apply to other subjects in arts and social sciences, making it inclusive of all gender. We must keep quota for male wherever necessary. So such positive discrimination should be practiced for inclusive growth. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rinzin. You know, Sherubtse, Kanglung, where we where the leaders, Bhutanese leaders of the future are educated, groomed, skilled. See, we thought it was a good idea to get an insight into what's happening in the minds of the young Bhutanese. Also because we, in our system, it's not common that the academia, tertiary institutions are involved in the decision-making process. Okay, may I now ask Tshering, Deputy CEO of Renew, and because Renew has started operation in Dagana and Shemgang, so we wanted to know, okay, bring in kind of rural Bhutan also into this and see what is missing and what another gap, so to speak. Okay, Tshering, yes, please.
Thank you, Dasho. Well, since we're talking about inclusive economic growth, and I come from a sector that caters mostly to the rural community, but I think what I will talk will also apply to every section of the population. So from my experience providing microfinancing in 11 Dzongkhaks for the last 7 years, what I have learned, and this is my personal opinion, is that I think rural people or people in general, Bhutanese in general, need to be more proactive. This is what I've seen. I think the inactiveness or the reactiveness comes from the fact that the government has been taking care of us historically. So even today, medical is paid for, education is paid for, unlike, let's say, in India. So I might make a lot of references of India because I went to a boarding school in India. I pretty much grew up in India. So I think I've seen these two cultures while growing up. So I feel that this lack of proactiveness comes because we have this mindset that the government should do this, the government should do that. Of course, the government should do that. That's the reason we elected them. But I feel like putting your and your family's future into the hands of the government is not a very wise thing to do. And if that were the thing, we wouldn't be discussing all the challenges that we discussed today. There are so many challenges and issues that we want the government to address. But we also have to understand that I think there is only so much the government can do. And I think it is our own responsibility that we make a better life for ourselves and for our family. So as a microfinance service provider, I would say that in rural areas, in my experience, especially in agriculture sector, there has always been this issue that they have the harvest, but they don't have access to market. And it's due to the transportation issue. It's because they don't have cold storage. And they want the government to install, they want the government to fix the roads. But I feel like the community can come together and decide to, someone can take up the business of installing a storage in their community, and all the people in the community can bring their storage, their produce and store there. And if the roads are bad, they can proactively come together and fix the road. I understand that it takes a lot of money, it's expensive to take over these projects, but I feel like waiting on the government does not help either. And I think the government will act, but as we all know, when we wait on the government, how long it takes for the government to act. So that's why I feel like it's very important that if we want equitable and inclusive economic growth, I feel like we have to take the responsibility ourselves. We have to understand that we have our own back. We cannot always rely. Of course, the government and the regulators will do their part, but I feel like it is our responsibility also that we do our part. Having said that, I also feel that there is this lack of urgency in our people. We are pretty laid back, and I think it's also, and this is again my personal opinion, and I do not mean any disrespect to anyone, but this is what I have seen, and this is my personal opinion, that I think it's because of the kind of community that we have. If you're out of job or you take some time to find a job, you know that you can always depend on your family to take care of you. So I think it has to do with that also, that mentality that, you know, we do not feel like, okay, I have to do it. Even with entrepreneurs. However, I have also been to several pitching sessions, and I've seen that our entrepreneurs, they do not come as business people. They come as people seeking favor. And I feel like no investor would want to put their money in your business if you do not bring something substantial to the table. You have to convince them that you mean business and not asking for a favor. If I give a very typical example, I've seen a lot of pitchers say that we are a local company and we want to promote local produce, so please support us. Investors will not invest their money because you want them to support your local produce. You have to bring value to the table. If you cannot compete in quantity, you have to compete in quality. So there has to be something that you should be able to bring to the table if you want to thrive. And one more issue that I have seen, or challenge that I've seen among entrepreneurs, is that I think it's very difficult for most of us to find the right kind of balance. A lot of time, these pitchers or these investors are too timid, and when you're too timid and then you're not confident, you don't look confident, and when you're not confident, the investors will not have confidence in your endeavor. And then there's the other side where the investors are, the entrepreneurs are too arrogant. That's not good either. So I think it's very important to find that balance, that you have to be respectful, but at the same time you stand your ground. You mean business. So I feel like this is the way, because things are changing now, and I think we hear from our fathers and uncles who say that as soon as they graduated, companies would come to them, asking them to join their company. But that's not the case anymore. So now I feel like Bhutan is also getting very competitive. And if you're just good enough or barely there, I think we will have challenges. The unemployment rate will increase. There will be issues like this, and people will be disgruntled and complaining against the government. And but I feel like at the end of the day, we have to have our own back. It's just, and what I'm saying might contradict or some people might even find offending, but I really believe in this straight and tough talk. So I feel like this is what it is, that this is the reality, that you have to have your own back. You cannot depend on your family, you cannot depend on your government, because there is only so much that they can do for you. And now this is more from the demand side. Now if I talk from the supplier side, from the government, from the regulators, I feel like this is what we've seen, that often we try to copy and paste from another country to our country because it worked there and we think that it will probably work here. I feel like, and that's why we've seen that so many things, so many policies have not worked in our context. So I feel like it's very important that our government spend more on R&D, research and development. We have to really study the market, see what is applicable in our context, in our community, talk to the people, have discussions with relevant people who would be actually affected by our policies. So I feel like this is what the government could be done from the supply side. And I also think that from my experience that we need to provide, government should be providing a lot of financial literacy as well as business literacy. I know the Ministry of Agriculture and other agencies are doing a lot in the rural community to boost the agriculture sector in our country. They're giving access to, now they're given access to market and even access to technology. But I feel that if the rural community, most of whom are illiterate, if they do not know how to make a forecast for their business, or if they do not know how to budget their income and expenses, the business will only take them so far. So I feel like it's very important that we invest in these also. And Renew Microfinance, along with our project Prudent, that is a project for rural development, we try to provide financial literacy and business literacy. And trust me on this, if you provide the needed financial literacy and business literacy, the loan will take care of itself. Because the client will know, okay, so this is how much I earn, this is how much I have to pay for the EMI, do I think I have the capacity to take this loan and repay? The client can make that sound decision for themselves. And I think even banks, financial service providers like us, we need to think outside the box and not go the conventional way. Okay, so you have a legit collateral, you get the loan. You don't get the loan. So I think it's more about holistic evaluation that we have to conduct. And we have to sit with the borrower and talk to them, like person to person. Okay, so this is what you want to do. So these are your business plans. So this is your income. Do you really think you can do this? I think consultation with the borrowers is also very important as a lender, because we want to be a responsible lender. So having said that, I think these are the things that I can think of, and if there are more questions, then I would be open to them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tshering. That was very nice listening to you. needing to be more proactive. A lot of these ideas are not new ideas, but when you listen to them, very lucidly explained. Now, I understood that these are the problems which we have, very practical, spoken by a very sensitive investor, so to speak, and the answers are also there, which if we think about it, it's there. So, very interesting, Tshering, thank you very much.